Hi, my name is Tiffany Pinetta. This is my cooking channel, More Than Breakfast at Tiffany's. And I've already done a few videos before, and my main goal is to help people learn about healthy cooking and also Mexican food. My mother-in-law is from Mexico, from Guerrero, and she was sweet enough to teach me all of her recipes. And so I want to share them with you. And today we're going to learn how to make shrimp ceviche. Here's a list of the things you're going to need. So first we're gonna peel the cucumber. You want to get all the skin off. I like to save the scraps. So I like to keep my vegetable scraps because I do my own composting for my garden. And what composting is where you take your fruits and vegetable scraps and you stick it in, well, for us, since we don't have our own like actual backyard, I have to use a bucket. And so you put all your fruits and vegetable scraps in a bucket, and you even put dried leaves or like clean lightly used paper towels. So basically you want like 50% fruits and vegetables and 50% carbon. And what that does is, and you mix it together, and what that does is it breaks down, and it's really cool because after a while you can see it heat because it's starting to like break down, and it creates its own really healthy nutrient based soil for your garden. So yeah, like I just stick mine in a, like as I'm cooking, I stick all my scraps in a bag and throw it into my compost. So after peeling your cucumber, we're going to, since it's so big, I like to cut it in half first and then cut that in half, and cut that in half. And then with some typical recipes, they say to take out this, like the seeds, but I like to keep it in because I don't see any necessary, like, you know, because when you cut cucumbers in a circle, you eat it with the seeds. So to me, I just don't feel like it's necessary to take the center out, but if you want to, you can. And then after cutting the cucumber in half, I take those halves because you want to make a small dice. So since this one's kind of big, I'm gonna cut it into fourths, like into 4 cuts longwise. And then you're gonna take your knife, and one good trick to holding your knife that I learned this in culinary school so you have better control of your knife is if you put your thumb on the blade and your pointer finger on the blade, so like that, because like when you're cutting you have control of the blade. Otherwise, when you're going like this, you know, it can slip, it can slide, so that way you have better control. And then you use this other hand to grasp the food, but you want to do it like this, so as you're cutting you don't cut your fingers off because you want the blade to just kind of go against this. So you hold it down. So then you hold your fingers down on it like this. And then you want, can you come up close to this? You want like a small dice. So you want like this. And you can even actually make them smaller. Since it's kind of thick, what I normally do, and I wasn't thinking about it at the time, is I'll cut this in half. Because you kind of want like a small dice like that. And then you'll toss it into your bowl. Because the cool thing with ceviche is that the shrimp is going to cook in the lemon juices, like the citric juices, because the acid is what cooks your shrimp. And so all the cooking is done in a bowl in your refrigerator. So I'm just trying to get these pieces a little bit smaller. And then toss it in a bowl. Yeah, because you want like a really small lace. So with this one, I'm gonna cut it in half so it's not so thick. And then we'll do the same thing. So you'll cut this in fours because you want your chunks to be small. And then again, you'll so that's how it should look, like that. And then you can even use your knife to help you scoop up the pieces. And then we're just gonna continue to do that like with the rest of the cucumber. So when you're done cutting all the cucumber, it should look something like that. And then next we're going to dice our onion. And you're gonna wanna cut off the ends. And again, throw them into your vegetable scrap for your compost. You wanna use all the shavings. And then you're gonna cut so you cut the ends off, and then you cut it in half. And we're only gonna use about a quarter of this onion. And we're gonna do the same thing, so I'll just set aside that half. And you wanna take off all the loose skin. And even parts that look dead, you want to take it off. Okay. And then you're going to, you know what, just for look's sake and for it to look better, I'll just take that off. So you want your onion to look like that before you start cutting it. So then next you're gonna go, so this is like the end of your onion, so you want to cut on this side, and then you're gonna make thin cuts. So see how like the onion kind of has like lines on them? Like they kind of have lines, like you're just gonna like make like thin cuts, like strip cuts. And it's okay if they're not perfectly even, but we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna small dice the onion. And you're gonna do these small cuts across the whole onion. And then you're gonna come this way, because there's no need to like cut it this way, like into the onion, because the onion's already layered, and so it's already gonna have those cuts naturally cut for you. And then same thing, so you don't cut your fingers. You want to hold the onion like that, and then we're gonna do small dice cuts on the onion as well. And we're gonna toss it into the bowl. And then sometimes, like, you'll have longer strips, so you just take your knife and cut them. But just toss it into the bowl with the cucumbers. So this is what I love about this recipe, is that, like, you just toss all the ingredients into one bowl and let it cook and marinate, and you're done. So I like to give like a generous amount of onion because it gives it flavor. So yeah, that should be good. So yeah, since it was a large onion, I just used like a quarter of that half. Like, you know, it's kind of like a quartered tomato or onion. So it should look like that. And if you like less onion, you can do less onion. If you want more onion, if you're an onion lover like my mom, you can go ahead and add more onion. But you also want that perfect balance of flavors. So, like, if you have a larger onion, just a quarter of an onion is perfect with one large cucumber. And then, next we're gonna add in chilies into our ceviche. And my husband, he taught me a trick to find hot chilies, because not all the time you're gonna find a really good spicy chili. I love spice because it gives really good flavor to your food. But if you don't like that much spice, then don't worry about it. But the trick is that you want your chilies, when you're looking grocery shopping and you're picking up the chili and looking at it, see these kind of like white scars? Like, you want your chilies to have these white scars, because then that means they're gonna be good and spicy. And also you want to wear gloves when you cut these, because if your chili's pretty spicy, like, the oils are going to be set into your skin for like a few days. Because I like made the mistake thinking like, oh, you know, I washed my hands like 20 times today, I should be fine. And I put my contacts in and my eyes were on fire, and it even rubs into your contact. So like, you have to rinse your contact with water really well, like once your fingers don't have the oils anymore. I don't know, it's a hot mess. So just wear gloves when you cut these chilies. I'm not, because I'm silly like that. So we're gonna first cut the chili in half. I do not like to de-seed mine because the seeds have the heat in them. And again, like, I like that spiciness. So I mean, it's your preference. If you don't want it that hot, then I would say take the seeds out. But for me, I like to keep them in. And then we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna small dice it. So we're kind of broke in half when I was trying to cut it in half. So you're just gonna make thin strips, and then you're gonna small dice it as well, like really small. And add it in there. So I cut these like into thirds, like 3 strips. And since it's curved, I'm just gonna cut it in half to make it simple. We can turn the video off. Okay, so now we're gonna add the shrimp into our ceviche bowl. I like to buy the jumbo shrimp. It looks like that. So I get my shrimp, like I live in Arizona, and I get my shrimp from, it's a store called Ranch Market. It's like one of my favorite stores because it's totally makes me feel like I'm in Mexico. It's called Ranch Market, and it's like everything that you need, every ingredient that you need to make like traditional Mexican food. And that's where I get my shrimp, and it's their jumbo shrimp. And I like this one because it's wild caught, because I don't like farm raised food, and they only have the wild caught in jumbo, but I kind of like it because it gives you good chunks of shrimp. And so when you buy fresh shrimp, it's gonna obviously come with the shell on it, and so you're gonna have to deshell it. And so there's two ways. Like one way in culinary school that they taught us is you can take a knife, because like you also have to, it's called deveining it, but in reality it's like, here, it's this. I found a trick where I can just pull it out. But this is the vein, but it's their poop. So I like to take it out because I think that's nasty. But there's another trick, because I did find a fast way where you can just like pull it out. But another way that they taught is that you can, so that way you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. I need to sharpen my knife. That is for real. Is you cut down the back of the shrimp, so that way it opens it so you can get it out. And then also at the same time, it makes it easy to peel the shell off. And I just toss it all in a bag so that way it's easier just to throw it all out. So you're basically going to, and then you want to try to be careful on this spot with the tail, because there is some meat inside of the tail, and you want to try to save that. So see, that's the meat from inside the tail. Sometimes it's going to rip off, but that's okay. That's the shell, and you want to rip that off. And make sure you get all of their vein out. And then you're gonna do small dices on this one too. So about 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 cuts on that, and it's gonna look like that. You don't have to use jumbo shrimp. You can use whatever size shrimp you want. My mother-in-law, or in Spanish it's called suegra, she likes to use the small shrimp and not even, like, she sees the small shrimp and not even dice it up, and she just lets it cook because it will be small. So it doesn't matter what size you use. This is just my preference. And then you'll just toss that in the bowl. And I know some of you are probably like, oh my gosh, that's cross-contamination, but it's not, because when we add the citric acid juices into here, it's gonna cook everything. So the shrimps and everything is going to cook together. So there's no cross-contamination happening. And we're going to go ahead and do that to all of our shrimp. I bought a pound of shrimp. You're going to use a pound of shrimp for this recipe. The way I like to devein it is I just go to the bottom and pull from the legs and rip it up and over. Because I like to try to keep my shrimp whole instead of like cut in half. And then I just take it and I pull that out, as nasty as that is. Alright, you can go ahead and turn it off. Okay, so when you're done deshelling, deveining, and cutting up your shrimp, this is what it should look like. And then now that we have all that in there, next we're going to do is we're going to add all of our citrus fruit. So first I'm going to add in 3 lemons, because these are pretty large. If they're a little bit smaller than this, like a medium size, I like to use 4 of them. Since these ones are kind of big, I'll probably just do 3, but you can always eyeball it just depending. And then we'll add in 3 of these medium, because these are medium size, because you can also buy limes that are like really small. I'm sure you've seen them. So I consider these like the medium sized lemons. I use 3 of these, and then we're gonna put in the juice of 2 oranges because I love the sweetness that it gives it. Okay, so you can either squeeze it by hand, or you can use a lemon juicer. And so I like to use the lemon juicer because it gets the most of the juice out than just squeezing it by your hand. But since this is kind of large, kind of have to trim it down. And cut it in half. And then I even cut that in half. So I kind of like quarter each half of the lemon. That way it'll fit into that. And then I put it in down like that. And then you just squeeze it. And I tip it to the side because a lot of the juice gets up on top. And then you just take it out. And then you just continue to do that for like all of your lemons. And I like it too because it helps it so the seeds don't fall into your bowl. It's not very fun crunching down on a seed. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of more lemon juice in here. Because it looks like it doesn't have quite enough. I mean, it's just a little bit under of how much juice I like to have. Alright, that's better. Has more juice. Alright, it's kind of want it pretty juicy. And I'll probably have to taste it later once the shrimp is cooked to see if I need to add more salt, since like lemon juice tends to cut salt flavor. Alright, so now we're gonna add, and I flipped my cutting board over since I was cutting shrimp on it, like raw shrimp. Since I'm not using all of the cilantro, I don't want to contaminate it. But I'm gonna go ahead and rinse off the cilantro. And then I'm gonna just use one trick that I use from a chef is that you can take it and twist it. Start cutting what you need. So we're just going to use about half of the bunch. And then we're going to mince it. So again, you want to use that same knife hold, and then you put your other hand on top of the blade to also like keep it steady and in place and give control. And just, that's it. I love the aroma of the cilantro. Okay, and then we're gonna add it in. That should be enough. Now we'll go ahead and you're gonna get cilantro on your fingers. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and mix it in. Really good. So I didn't end up using all of the cilantro that I cut up. All right, and there you have it. And then I'm gonna saran wrap it and stick it in the fridge and let it cook for about an hour to an hour and a half. You can do longer if you want. But yeah, so about an hour and a half should be plenty of time for the shrimp to be done cooking. And this is what the ceviche should look like when it's done cooking for about an hour, hour and a half. See how the shrimp is nice and pink? And we like to serve ours, I like to eat mine on tostadas. So you can either serve it in a bowl and garnish it with some avocado and eat it with saltine crackers. This is the way that my husband loves it. Or you can even serve it on a tostada and garnished also with some avocado. Either way, it's really yummy. Bon appetit!